Imagine standing in broad daylight, and suddenly, the sun disappears. On the day Jesus was crucified, the world was plunged into a darkness no one could explain. The streets of Jerusalem were restless that Friday. It was Passover season, and the city was swollen with travelers, merchants, and pilgrims from every corner of the land. The smell of roasted lamb and incense drifted through the air, mingling with the sound of coins clinking and sandals shuffling on stone streets. But outside the city walls, beyond the northern gate, something far darker was unfolding. On the hill called Golgotha, 3 crosses stood. On the center one hung Jesus of Nazareth, the man many believed was the Messiah. His body sagged against the wood. Blood traced lines down his arms. His face, crowned with thorns, bore both agony and peace. At his feet, Roman soldiers cast lots for his robe, laughing, their armor gleaming in the sun. The crowd was divided. Some mocked him. "If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." Others stood weeping, powerless to help. His mother, Mary, stood nearby with John, grief etched on her face. Then it happened. At the 6th hour, noon, the brightest part of the day, the light began to dim. At first, a shadow crept slowly across the land, as if a storm was gathering. People squinted at the sky. Some shaded their eyes, confused. The sun itself seemed to shiver. But this was no ordinary cloud. Within moments, the world was plunged into darkness. Torches were lit in the streets as though it were midnight. The marketplace grew silent. Fathers pulled their children close. Whispers spread. "What is this? Is it an omen? Has God abandoned us?" In the temple, priests preparing sacrifices stumbled as their lamps went out. The bleating of lambs faded into silence. One priest dropped his knife, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed on the unexplainable gloom. On the hill, even the hardened Roman centurion stopped mocking. He stared at the sky, his hand tightening on his spear. He had seen death 1,000 times, but never had nature itself seemed to mourn. "By the gods!" he muttered, his voice uneasy. The earth itself grew still. Birds ceased their singing. The wind held its breath. Time felt suspended, as though creation itself refused to move while its maker hung dying. For 3 hours the darkness lingered. People cried in the streets. Merchants shut their stalls. Mothers rocked their children to quiet their fear. Beyond Jerusalem, travelers on the roads paused, staring upward, their hearts unsettled. Even historians in faraway lands would later write of this day, noting a great unexplainable darkness that stretched beyond Judea. Then, breaking the silence, a voice rang out from the cross. It was raw, torn with agony, yet filled with authority. "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani? My God, why have you forsaken me?" The cry pierced the darkness. Heaven and earth seemed to tremble at the sound. Moments later, with one final breath, Jesus lifted his head and declared, "It is finished." The ground shook violently. Rocks split apart. Graves cracked open. In the temple, the massive veil, woven thick as a man's hand, tore from top to bottom, as though an unseen hand had ripped it in two. On the hill, the Roman centurion fell to his knees, his eyes wide with awe. His voice shook as he whispered the truth he could no longer deny. Truly, this was the Son of God. The sun slowly returned, but the world was forever changed. Those who had mocked walked away beating their chests in fear. Those who believed wept, knowing prophecy had been fulfilled. The darkness had lifted, but in hearts across Jerusalem, a deeper realization remained. The light of the world had been extinguished. Yet in his death, hope had been born.